welcome back. I am here today to discuss my recent reads, and upon prepping for this video, I didn't realize that I had not read as much as I thought I had from my last check-in here. So this video may be a little chopped up, and I may be wearing two different outfits because I may have to do two videos at two separate times to make this whole. But we're just gonna go ahead and jump into it. So my first recent read, which is not the most recent, but is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And what did I give? I gotta pull out my little trusty reading journal here, which, by the way, just in case you needed to know, this is my April and March spread because apparently I didn't finish anything in March. We don't have to discuss it. And then my April spread, or my April title page, is a little boring. But, okay, there we go. I almost forgot what rating I gave this. Oh, my little page for this is kind of boring. And my other page is not finished, but we're not talking about that yet. So, I finished this probably in like 3 sittings, maybe, like 3 major sittings. Like there was, you know, a few sittings with like just a little bit of flipping through, but nothing really worth counting. I felt that it was really slow, but the slowness of the story didn't feel mispaced, if that makes sense. Like it felt like it was a good pace and it was a good slow, and I was learning things about the story as it went, even though it was very, very slow. And the entire time I was reading this book, I honestly felt major Crimson Peak vibes. And for some reason, everybody that I had talked to about this book had not seen the movie Crimson Peak, which if you haven't and you have read this book, you need to go watch it, because I really feel that it's the exact same story. I mean, there was a few tweaks, but it's literally the exact same story, which there may be a reason that it feels that much alike. Well, hello, Eleanor. Just hello. Well, thank you for interrupting. Do you have opinions? Which there may be a reason that it's the same story, feels like, anyway. I mean, it's not the exact same story. Like the characters are a little bit different. Like in Crimson Peak, it's a brother and a sister who live in this house, and the brother brings a wife home. Whereas in this one, it's a whole family, so it's actually more members of the family that live in this house, and a cousin brings a wife home, and then the wife's cousin comes to visit. But I still feel that it's the same story. And maybe that's because there is a review. Eleanor, do you mind? You're in my video, man. There is a review on here, or in here, that, where was it? Oh, it was on the first page if I'd gotten past the cover page. It said, an inspired mashup of Jane Eyre, Anne Radcliffe's The Mysteries of Udolpho, Dracula, Rebecca, and that 1859 classic sci-fi movie, The Blob. So I only know the story of Jane Eyre, really, because I've never read Rebecca. And I've heard about The Blob, but I've never like actually heard about what it's about. So maybe that's why these felt so similar. Maybe there's a reason in there, but it was just very, very, very much similar for me. And so I really, even though here I'm comparing it, but the entire time I was reading it, I was very much comparing it to Crimson Peak, and it even had the same pacing as the movie. So I don't, like, they're two kind of separate entities, but they had the same story for me. But overall, I did enjoy it. It wasn't mind-blowing, but I did enjoy it, and I will be keeping it. I won't be unhauling it, but I did give it 3 stars I felt that the ending tied up all of the loose ends. Like, I did not feel that there was a loose end not tied up. And I felt like even though the pacing was slow, that it was a good pacing. So I would recommend this to somebody who is prepared for the story to be slow and understands that it's going to be slow and can commit to a slow story, but not somebody who's really going into it expecting a thriller, because it's really not a thriller. And I guess I can see where it got confused, but it's definitely not a thriller. So the next book I went into with either too high of an expectation or something. But let me flip my little journal around. I don't have a little picture in here yet, but it was Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. And I remember this book releasing and me like wanting it. And I really just like, I kept hearing about it, and I heard about how good it was, and I heard about that it was about this girl whose family wrote a ghost story about a house that they lived in, and it was an altering perspective and time frame story, and all of that just sounded like something that I would enjoy. And I didn't think that I was going into it with too high of an expectation, but apparently I was, because I listened to this on audio, which may have been my problem. But I think if I'd have been reading it, I would have DNF'd this, to be honest. But physically, anyway. But the audiobook was enjoyable. However, it felt like I was listening to a documentary on Netflix about a haunted house. Like, that's all it felt like. Where you had the dual timelines, and you have the different point of views, and you have the different people talking. Like, it just felt the same, which maybe that's why everybody enjoyed it, but I've seen so many of those. Like, this didn't feel different, so it was just an average 3-star book for me, which I did give it 3 stars because it felt very average. It was enjoyable, but like, it wasn't mind-blowing or anything like that. The ending was very good, but it wasn't something I didn't expect. It didn't blow my mind. And honestly, it was a little bit of a letdown because I was prepared for a much better story than I received, but it could have been worse. So that's really all I have about this one. If you don't know what it's about, Maggie Holt's father dies and leaves her Bainbury Hall, which is the equivalent of every haunted house, manor, or hall that there is, essentially. And I don't understand. But anyway, I have questions. Anyway, Maggie's dad dies, and he leaves her Bainbury Hall. She inherits Bainbury Hall from him. And she decides that she's going to go there and she's going to renovate it. And when she gets there, some like eerie things start happening, and the story unfolds from there. And every other chapter is a chapter from the book that he wrote called House of Horrors, which is the ghost story about the book. And then another chapter is in present time with her experiencing similar things and trying to unwind what really happened from what really didn't happen. And that was pretty much it. Like, there was nothing exceptional, I felt, about this book. So, that's really all I have to say about it. I felt like it could have been a little bit shorter, honestly, if it was just going to be a haunted house written documentary, essentially. So, did I miss something? Like, I just have questions. Like, did I miss something? Did I skip over some chapters? Like, did we read the same book? Because all these people are giving this like a 4 and 5-star review, and they're just talking about how wonderful it is and how the ending was like what did it for them. And did we read the same book? Like, I'm not gonna tear it to shreds. Like, I enjoyed my time, but for it to be an 11.5-hour audiobook, it could have been shorter. Like, this could have been wrapped up in 8 hours, I feel. But that's just my opinion. it could have been worse. I've read worse, but I think I went into it with too high of an expectation. But I still didn't really get what I expected from the story. But I did have fun making my little page in my reading journal for it, where I did the little skeletons, which is usually one I use at Halloween, but I thought that it might be a little fitting for the book, if you know, you know. And I did the kind of lime green highlighter, but then I filled in one of the little skeletons with lime green. Not that you can see it, and then I put like my opinions here. I haven't filled in my star rating yet, just because I just finished this book right before recording this video. And then, so the picture's gonna go here, so it's nothing too impressive, but that's all I have to say about these two books. I'll be back in another clip, probably with 2 more books, and I'll see you soon in another clip. Hello, I am back with the conclusion to my recent reads. I finished 1 more, so I felt like that was a good number to finally be able to post at. Hello. Do you want to look at the camera, or do you want to just look at me? Okay. So the most recent one that the most recent one that I have finished is The Collective by Allison Galen, and I enjoyed this. It was okay. It was just a 3.5 star out of 5 for me. It was what I feel the chain should have been and could have been, essentially. Because if you remember, I did not like the chain. This one, it was just okay. Like, it was a little bit of a slow burn, and then towards the second half it kind of picked up. But essentially, I don't know, like, I wasn't overly connected to the characters, but at the same time, the ending wasn't what I wanted for any of the characters, but I wasn't, like, incredibly dissatisfied and disappointed, but I wasn't overly satisfied. It was just kind of an ending. Like, I didn't feel that it tied everything up completely, and, like, I still have some unanswered questions, but I think they're just personal questions, rather than things that didn't get tied up in the story. But essentially, the Collective is about a mother whose daughter died 5 years ago, and she feels that the killer was not punished, and it went very unjustified for her. Her and her husband have separated, so she is just kind of living through her grief, even though it's been 5 years. She's just never really moved forward or moved anywhere further with her life. She's just kind of stayed put. And then she gets a business card and kind of discovers a group for grieving mothers who feel that their child's death was not justified, and it never got the justice that it deserved. And it all kind of unfolds from there, and it just kind of starts, like, winding through. But overall, I mean, I'm probably not going to read it again, essentially, but it was okay. Like, it wasn't a disappointment. It was just kind of okay. Like, it was a little bit more interesting than just, like, an average one, which is why it got a 3.5 stars. And I did feel that, you know, there was very interesting points and there was very interesting plot twists, but overall it was just okay. Like, it wasn't anything mind-blowing. I do have some, like, questions about the character Luke. Like, I would have liked to have, like, met him more. Like, you only saw him in the first bit, and then he kind of disappeared, and all you did was kind of read about conversations that Camille and Luke were having, rather than actually seeing them interact. But other than that, like, I don't have any major complaints, but I don't have any, like, praises overall. So that's how I feel about The Collective. And that is the conclusion to my recent reads. I will see you guys soon in another video.